Hi Shepherdteers, does this sound familiar? You go on an awesome vacation or go travel to visit family and you had an amazing time. When you get home, your heart is so full of love, your head is full of new experiences, and you are exhausted. You have this feeling of like, oh man, this past week or weeks was so amazing and I'm so excited to implement some of what I've learned or experienced into my new routines. And then the harsh reality sets in. You have so much to do, unpack and laundry, catch up on emails, if you've got kids, like their schedules and maybe some homework someone forgot to tell you they had to get done before going back to school, and overall just kind of getting back in the right mindset to get back to work and back to your daily life. And you have no food to eat. Or maybe you do have food to eat, but it's not really the food that you want to eat. And you definitely don't want to plan and cook when you've got all these other things going on. And for sure, you don't want to go to the grocery store. There's just not time, energy, or the desire to go grocery shopping right now. So today I'm going to give you some ideas for how you can set yourself up before you leave for your trip so that whenever you get home, you have easy, delicious, satisfying meals that are going to be really easy to put together and then make your whole week back from vacation go so much smoother. The question of what are we going to eat for dinner this week is going to have a really easy answer. So first off, we need to talk about timing. Now this plan is something that you're going to want to do at least 2 weeks, up to about a month before you leave for your trip. Because how hectic does that last week before you leave always get, right? There's all kinds of stuff that pops up and you always run out of time. So we're going to make this plan at least 2 weeks before we leave for the trip. And then we need to decide, okay, how do we want to deal with our meals the week that we get home? Do we want to have like all of the meals prepared, maybe in the freezer, so then you can just thaw them, reheat them, and go? Do you want to have ingredients for quick and easy meals on hand? Also, some of those might be in the freezer, maybe some in the pantry, and then that way those are easy to grab and make a quick meal. Do you want to kind of outsource to external services? So like a restaurant delivery. Some people, when they get home from traveling, they feel like they've eaten out way too much. And so the only thing you really want is a home cooked meal. So if this is you, probably the restaurant delivery isn't gonna be your option. But for some people, that could be a good solution. Also like a grocery delivery service. And if you're in Denver, especially, Chef It. Regardless of the grocery delivery service you use, you could plan ahead of time and either fill up your carts and then actually do that order as you're traveling or as soon as you get home, or you could schedule that shop for later on. With Chef It, we've made it even easier, so you don't even have to think about which meals you want. We have some quick and easy, really delicious and customizable meals that will bring to you all the ingredients you need. You don't even have to think about writing a shopping list. And yes, if you're not in the Denver area, unfortunately you won't be able to take advantage of this. But if you are in Denver, this can be a really great, easy solution for you. And then one of the other ways that you could outsource this externally, it's gonna take someone in your life who's super kind and generous. So if you have a really close friend, family member, maybe neighbor, who loves to cook, then you could ask if they wanted to prepare a few meals to have ready for you when you get home. This also works well if you have that family member house sitting or pet sitting for you. They may like to do this for you, and then you could offer to do that for them the next time that they travel. So like I said, this takes someone who's super kind and super generous, and so you may not immediately be able to do this, but I do think it's a fun, cool option that maybe over time you can develop with someone and trade off cooking for each other when you get back from vacations. So if you decide that the way that you want to go about preparing for after the holiday travel or vacation travel is with prepared meals and ingredients that will make really quick, easy meals, then keep watching, because that's what I'm going to focus on most of the rest of this video, is how to make that happen. So now we need to figure out what exactly do we want to eat. When deciding which meals you want to plan for, keep in mind what food you might be tired of eating from your travels. So maybe you're going on a tropical vacation, you might get tired of some foods that you're expecting to eat there. Maybe you're going somewhere where there's a lot of really hearty dishes, and so you're thinking, okay, when I get home, I'm definitely going to want something light and fresh. Will you be eating a lot of spicy dishes or traditional holiday foods? And so do you want to stay away from those whenever you get home? And also, if you are doing a lot of camping and cooking a lot of foods over the campfire and those kinds of really easy to prepare while you're out in nature type meals, then you may want to plan a little bit of a nicer dinner whenever you get home. So be realistic about what you will or will not want to eat. That way you don't unintentionally stock your fridge, freezer, and pantry full of ingredients and meals that you don't actually want to eat whenever you get home. Next, think about the seasonality. So if you are traveling in the wintertime, soup might be a really great option. However, if you're going on a summer vacation, you might not want to come home and eat soup. Same idea with casseroles, though I think some casseroles can lend themselves a little bit better to summertime than most soups. And then grilling. So if you are camping, you might not want to grill any foods, but if you're coming home from a summer vacation, then doing an at-home meal on the grill could be a great option. And then fresh salads, and if you have a garden at home and you're traveling around the time when harvest season will be upon us, then think about what fresh produce you might be able to walk out in the backyard and grab out of your garden. And then lastly, think about what kind of regional delicacies you might want to bring home with you from your trip. So definitely don't break any international laws and always follow customs regulations and things. So probably don't try to smuggle any fresh produce across borders. I'm not a proponent of that. But if you happen to bring some other, legal food home with you, that could be fun. And you might not know this before you leave for your trip, but if you do, then you can plan for ways that you're going to use that up whenever you get home. And then, of course, domestically, it's way easier. So maybe you go up to Alaska or Washington and you bring home some smoked salmon or some gumbo from New Orleans, especially if it's like a trip that you are driving instead of flying. It can be so much easier to pack a cooler and bring some stuff home with you. Maybe it's breakfast burritos from Frontier in Albuquerque. You never know. But you want to, if you can, plan ahead for that. And then you have delicious meals that remind you of your trip when you get home. All right, so after considering all of those things, now actually write down on paper what meals you are planning to cook and have ready whenever you get back from travel. And I will go through the package of meals that I've developed with ShefIt so that you get some inspiration, but I'll do that closer to the end. Now that you've decided which meals you want to cook, it's time to figure out how you're going to prep them before you leave. So is this a meal that you can cook a larger portion than normal sometime this week or next week before you leave, and you eat that for dinner that night, and then you save all of the leftovers in the freezer for a quick and easy meal to reheat when you get home from vacation? Some examples of great meals for this are soups and casseroles, burritos, and then slow cooked meat. So like a pulled pork, carne adobada, or like a rotisserie chicken. You can shred that chicken. Any of those already cooked meats you could freeze and then thaw and have a pretty easy protein option when you get home. Also ask yourself, with this meal, can I purchase a lot of the ingredients as frozen ingredients? That way they don't run the risk of spoiling while I'm gone. So things like frozen vegetables and frozen fruits, even frozen sauces, frozen pasta sauces like pestos. And then also, are there ingredients that you can buy and then put in the freezer? So maybe they aren't sold frozen, but you can get some extra life out of them by putting them in the freezer. It's like tortillas, breads, shredded cheese usually thaws pretty well, raw meat or cooked meat like we just talked about. And then if you want a green, one of my favorite frozen greens is spinach. While yes, the texture definitely changes, I think that the flavor of spinach holds up pretty well through freezing and then thawing back out. So if you want to freeze your spinach, I recommend steaming it and blanching it, which means cooling it down really quickly in an ice bath, and then packing it up into individual portions and freezing that. So an example of a meal where you could buy a lot of frozen components and then put it together pretty quickly could be like enchiladas. So if you buy the tortillas and freeze those, then you just need to thaw those really quickly. And maybe you have some already cooked chicken in the freezer that you thaw out. And then you can have some frozen corn and peppers. And then an enchilada sauce. And that sauce could be a sauce that you get from the freezer and you thaw and use that, or even like a jarred sauce that you keep in the pantry. Which brings us to the last big question is, what can you keep in the pantry to then use when you get home? These are really easy things like dried pasta, beans, rice, ramen, and there's a huge variety of ramens to check out, so you're not stuck to like cup of noodles. And then breakfast type options like cereal and oatmeal. And whenever you are shopping and preparing to leave, remember that just because produce might last for 5 days before spoiling and you might only be gone for 4 days, doesn't necessarily mean that that fresh produce is going to work for you. Because what is the likelihood that you're actually going to go to the grocery store 1 or 2 days before you leave for your trip? I feel like most of the time, the last time people grocery shop before leaving for a trip is 5 days to a week before they leave. Be realistic about when you're gonna go to the grocery store, plus the day that you're going to leave for your trip, plus the actual duration of your trip. Because I would hate for you to buy fresh produce and then it spoil while you're on your vacation. And the last thing we need to do is execute the plan. So be sure to write down all of the meals and the ideal number of servings to get from each meal. This way you take into account the leftovers that you might have from the meals that you're preparing. In the moment, it might be a little bit silly to write everything down, but I feel like we always experience short-term memory loss when we go off to vacation. So whenever you get back, you might struggle to remember exactly what you had planned. That's why I recommend to always write it all down. And then check what you already have in the fridge, freezer, and pantry. However, most of your storage is probably going to happen in the freezer or the pantry. And then write your shopping list to fill in whatever you are missing. And then start preparing your elements of your meals, and be sure to label everything. Especially if it's going in the freezer, label it well. And if you can, freeze your meal components or meal like leftovers in single or double servings. It will freeze and thaw a lot more quickly. And if you have enough leftover soup to serve like 8 servings of something, you might not want to eat all 8 of those servings as soon as it's thawed. So if you freeze them in smaller portions, then you can commit to eating up a little bit less. And then, as much as you can, put those frozen items in the front and center of your freezer. That way it's the easiest stuff to see and grab. Similarly, in the pantry, go ahead and group your items together that you're planning to use on the same shelf in the pantry. That way you have one place to look and easily find those items. And then before you leave, be sure to put that list of meals somewhere that's really, really easy to see. So whether that is the door of your refrigerator, the door of your pantry, on the middle of the island with a paperweight. If you have like a family command center, corkboard, something like that, put it there. You can also save it in your phone. But I think it's a great idea to put it somewhere super obvious to see because again, like I said, sometimes we experience short-term memory loss when we get home from vacation, and that will be your trigger to remind you as soon as you get home, pull the stuff out of the freezer that will need to thaw before you can prepare it. Even if you get home at like 11:30 p.m., you're not going to cook until the next day. It will probably take you less than 2 minutes, especially if you put everything front and center in your freezer. Take you less than 2 minutes to move that stuff into the fridge, and then the amount that it is able to thaw is going to help quicken up all of those meals that you cook. So whether something is fully thawed or partially thawed, it's still going to save you time. So what are some of the specific meals that I recommend to my clients whenever they get home from traveling and they want those easy, delicious, satisfying, and customizable meals? Number one, I always love bringing them a rotisserie chicken because then you have protein that is already cooked and it's going to be very versatile. And then with that, I like adding that chicken to a pesto pasta. And that's super simple because sometimes clients will already have noodles and I just need to buy the prepared pesto sauce. And that takes like less than 15 minutes to cook the noodles, heat everything up, and get dinner on the table. And then another meal that I really like is street style chicken tacos. And so I'll bring my clients tortillas and then some cabbage for a slaw, and then the rotisserie chicken. And then what's really fun is if clients have leftover frozen vegetables or salsa in the pantry or black beans, refried beans, whatever they like the most and have on hand, they can use up in those tacos. And really, it's very customizable to use your favorite flavors. I do like to bring lime and avocado with that, so that even if clients don't have very much hanging on in the fridge or pantry, it'll still be a flavorful meal. And then for like the holiday travel season, I love the winter salad because it's on a bed of kale, which is gonna last a while. And then farro, pomegranate seeds, and mandarin oranges go on top, and it's tossed in an Italian dressing. So it's a pretty simple salad. It can be great for when you're really craving that fresh food and some fresh produce. And then in like the summertime, busy travel season, I have a summer salad that I like to recommend. And then I also give my clients a choice of 2 different crock pot soups. So there's a 3-bean turkey chili and a vegan veggie minestrone. I like both of these meals because there's multiple sources of protein in them, and because it's a crock pot, you can throw everything in the morning. Let's say it's your first day back to work or something, and then you'll have a great meal when you get home. And in addition to all of that, I also like to give my clients their choice of 1 recipe of overnight oats. So I love utilizing overnight oats, especially during these hectic weeks, because you can batch make it for multiple days, put them all in the fridge, and then you have a nutritious, easy, super duper quick breakfast each morning. So the 4 overnight oats that people can choose from is a berry one that also has chia seeds. There's a tropical fruit one, which uses frozen like pineapple, guava, mango, and macadamia nut milk, if you like it. If not, we can do whatever your favorite type of milk is. There's a raspberry mocha overnight oats, which has Nutella in it, or chocolate hazelnut spread, and fresh raspberries on top. That is so delicious. And then the last one is a cinnamon apple overnight oats. So it's diced Granny Smith apples for a little bit of tangy, and then there's some walnuts on top, along with a lot of those fall baking spices that we all love. So that is what I like to recommend to people, to have a variety of different flavors while also keeping it really, really simple for that week whenever you get home from vacation. And then if you heard all this and you're like, that still just sounds like so much work and I want much easier options, I think that the recommendations I'm about to give are going to fit really, really well for some people, while other people may say, that's not really the type of food I want to be eating when I get home from vacation. So these are also good to kind of fill in any holes that if you are trying to prepare as much as you can ahead of time and like have home cooked stuff, you can fill in the gaps with some of these really, really quick, easy options. So any grocery store style meal kit or other meal kit. So these are the ones, it's usually like a tray with a protein, a starch, and a vegetable. And there's usually some really basic cooking instructions. It's all kind of vacuum sealed together. I think you know what I mean. Any of those could be great. And before you buy them, check if they have freezing and thawing instructions with them or not, and or their best by date. Just make sure that you're gonna be reheating and eating that in a safe way. Then of course, any frozen meals that you like. So pizza, burritos, like stir fries, chicken pot pies. There's kind of like the meal kit, but in already cooked and frozen form, like a la Lean Cuisine and Evo Foods. I think as a kid, I remember like a kid cuisine with a penguin on it. But it's like, it's already done. I think you just poke holes in the top and microwave it, that style meal. Those can be really good, easy options to have when you get back from vacation. Along with your basic pantry items like boxed mac and cheese and hamburger helper. Now with that, you'll want to either cook your beef beforehand and then freeze it, or freeze your raw beef and then thaw that completely before you start cooking it and then cook it to make that hamburger helper come together. And then dry pasta and jars of sauce like marinara or Alfredo, and ramen, like I mentioned before. And then, of course, quick breakfast. So cereal, oatmeal, like breakfast bars, frozen waffles, or other like frozen sandwiches, breakfast sandwiches, and then toaster pastries, like whatever Pop-Tarts are called. I think toaster pastries. Any of those kinds of things. They can just be great to have something that's going to be super quick to grab and eat while you start your day, because you might be feeling a little bit hectic, a little bit out of your morning routines. So having those really, really simple morning options, I think, is also key. And that's it. My recommendations for how to set yourself up to have as little stress as possible with your food whenever you get back from vacation or traveling for the holidays or any road trip or international vacation plans. Thank you, Chefeteers, and I hope that you have an opportunity to have a lot of fun and creativity and bring some confidence in the kitchen soon.